Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's episode of Rebecca and Rebecca. My name is Rebecca Yager. I'm coming to you from Dallas, Texas, and my partner in Indiana is the fantastic Rebecca Reed. Hey, Rebecca.
Hey, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm doing well. How's it going?
It's going well. It's actually going quickly. Things are moving right along. So,
It is. It's the month of May, and we're end of school, and it's crazy. And you're a teacher in your other life outside of writing and reviewing, and so it's a busy time, isn't it, as we head into summer?
yes,
So,
track season is winding down. So, we got championship season coming up. Of course, everybody's getting injured. Got to prevent all that stuff and, never know what from one day to the next what's going to happen. So, it's quite a quick-paced, lots going on, but it's okay. It's fun, and this book is fits right in with that story, doesn't it? The quick paced, and so let's just start talking about. I love this book, so I don't want to.
we are excited. I think we're a little giddy because this has been one of our favorite books. This month, we are talking about In This Moment by Gabrielle Meyer. And this is book two of this particular series. And although at this point, Amazon is still showing that it's only a two-book series, it is a three-book series. And we were pretty excited about that as we read this. But let me tell you about In This Moment, and then we're going to dive in. Um, Maggie inherited a gift from her time-crossing parents that allows her to live three separate lives in 1861, 1941, and 2001. Each night, she goes to sleep in one time period and wakes up in another until she turns 21, when she will have to forfeit two of those lives and everyone she knows in them forever. She has to make her choice. In 1861, Maggie is the daughter of a senator at the outbreak of the Civil War, navigating a capital full of Southern spies and wounded soldiers. In 1941, she is a Navy nurse grappling with her knowledge of the future when she joins a hospital ship going to Pearl Harbor. And in 2001, she's a brilliant young medical student fulfilling her dream of becoming a surgeon. Maggie is sworn off romance until she makes her final choice, but of course, life is never that easy and things are going to get complicated for her. So she has to choose one path out of those three. So here we go. In This Moment, I have to tell you that when I read the first book, which was When the Day Comes, which I'm really glad I read it first, and you do not need to have read it first to get the gist of this story, by the way, but it is such a fun series. Um, I do have to say, I kind of have to get over this time crossing thing. It almost sounded very science fiction at first, but once you accept that little element, and I've heard Gabrielle say it, and she says it in her books, she is such a history buff and the way she brings a history to life. So these are more like historical novels than the science fiction thing. It's just got this one little element, which I thought was intriguing. It was something new that I really hadn't seen in a book that's more historical than anything.
Yeah, it really is. And of course, that attracted me to it because I love the fantasy type sci-fi stuff. So that was what drew me to the book more so than the history, although I like the history as well. The time crossing idea is really unique, and the way she handles it. If you've read time travel books before, if you like time travel um, as a what do you trope, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. You will enjoy this, but it is not going to be like what you're thinking it is going to be until you actually get in it.
Yeah.
It is different. And she handles it just in a really unique way. And she does a good job of explaining it. I think she does a good job of explaining it in book two. So it's like Rebecca said, you don't really have to have read book one, although you're gonna enjoy it more probably if you have read book one. If even if you read book two first, you want to go back and read book one because I think you'd really enjoy hearing, where they came, where this whole thing started, and so yeah, that was really interesting. But you're right, the history. It's in a way, it's like a dual time story, or in this case, triple time story. if you like those too, this is like that, but not at the same time. So it's a cross. It's just a really intricate fit between the whole time travel idea versus the dual time type of story.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. As I said, it's a fresh take on I don't know, this trope or this genre or whatever. So it was
right.
kind of fun. It did take me half a second to get past it in the first book, but once she hooked me, I was there.
Mm.
I enjoyed it. And part of this is selfish for me because I spent my childhood on the East Coast. I lived in Virginia. I loved Williamsburg, where a lot of book one takes, but there's still mention of it here in book two. I loved Washington, D.C. I loved all that history. So I, loved diving into this with the love of history. The way I think Meyer does a good job of just bringing these characters to life. So whatever the time, and Maggie's jumping through three different time periods, and knowing your like we said, it's a civil war. It's on the cusp of Pearl Harbor. 2001 is 9/11, and so the country is going to go through these major changes in the time period that Maggie's living in, and I think the author, she really handles all this well, and you get a good sense of who Maggie is in each of these times.
Yes. And she's consistent. Um she because her mind is the same. She is the same person even though she's in these different times, and that's explained very well in the book how it works. But you know, even though she has different rules in each one, because obviously women's roles are quite different from 1881 even to 1941, and still yet again to 2001. And so she experiences all of those differences. Sometimes that really makes it hard for her
Mm-hmm.
in, going from 2001 back to 1881. You think about the freedoms that women had enjoyed between those times. So sometimes going back to that earlier time does present a few difficulties as far as curtailed freedoms and abilities, for her to choose and make decisions, and of course clothing and all of that. But she does not she's not like a rebel in that sense either. So she stays true to the women of her time as much as possible. I feel like, you can't help but like some of it bleed over, but she tries, I think, really to follow, those rules. She doesn't really want to stand out, and that's made very clear
Yeah.
that she's not seeking, the limelight, or and that's part of the rules of this time crossing thing, is she
Yes.
can't knowingly change
Yeah.
history, or else
Yeah.
she forfeits the timeline. And I don't think that's giving a spoiler, because that's made
No.
very clear
No.
right away.
Mhm.
So there are rules. She can't just do willy-nilly whatever she wants, and that really does come into play.
Yeah, it's a conflict for Maggie as she travels with these timelines, because obviously being in 2001, she's going to know in the 1860s, Lincoln's going to get assassinated in 1864, 5. um, and then she's
Yeah.
and obviously knows that Pearl Harbor is coming and stuff. Now the thing she doesn't know is of course the 9/11 attacks in 2001, but as she knows Lincoln in the 1861 time period, and she has to sit there and just can't do anything, can't change anything. So there is this tug of war inside her. Plus in 2001 she's a medical student, she's going to be a doctor. In 1861, they barely had nurses. I mean, um, with that, and of course in 1941 she is a Navy nurse, with her skills. So trying to keep her skills, what she has learned in 2001 out of 1861, is tricky. With these time periods too, I thought the things like the Battle of Bull Run, the historical events that Meyer brings into these stories, she does really well with the events. She brings in real characters like President Lincoln, Clara Barton, and bases the characters in 1941 off real people, and et cetera, et cetera. So I like the sense, again, she places Maggie really well in these time periods.
Yes. And um I had forgotten from book one that the reason they all had to end in one was because their birthday was on the first.
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten that. And she says it somewhere in there, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's how come that's why they all end in one. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember now. But that was interesting. I don't know, I just really like the way it's the whole system is set up and the way it works. There's, she's really done a good job of thinking of all of the possible like issues and things, and using them as sources of conflict, or really closed a lot of the gaps as far as, well, what if this happened? Well, she's pretty much dealt with a lot of that. So you don't really left wondering, well, how could that, because Meyer does a good job of filling in those things. And I really did enjoy that. And the it's I was thinking about this when I was thinking about what I was going to say about this book, is like it's almost like a love triangle, but it's not.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because she's in these different time periods and she meets all these different people,
Mm-hmm.
some of whom she becomes close to and starts becoming romantically inclined towards them, although she tries really hard not to. But all of these people come in, and they seem at first all really like amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really, really interesting to watch how the stories played out, and to see the truth of each person's love and the way they loved Maggie, and the way Maggie came to love them, and what it was that she really felt, and how she was sorting that out while she was trying to make this terrible, terrible decision that she had to make about which timeline she was going to stay in,
Mm-hmm.
and how it just, the themes that produced out of it. I really enjoyed um, how she worked that out.
Mm-hmm.
And, looking at each of those men kind of as like an example of a different kind of love.
Oh, that's well put, because they're different men. In 2001, and this is not giving away spoilers, 2001, he's a young congressman. She's in Washington, D.C. She's met this young, right on the rise
Up and
politician,
coming.
congressman who's very ambitious. In 1941, of course, it's a Navy doctor who she works with, who's kind of a gruff, you know, scowling Navy doctor, and of course she worms her way into him. And then I loved the 1861 because he's actually a Pinkerton agent.
Yes, that was fun.
So it was really fun, but she didn't know why he was in Washington, D.C., and there was rumors of the Southern spies on there. And so it was kind of fun as they played out there. Do they trust each other? Because he also knew something's off with her, you know when
Yeah.
she's going through all these other things, like coming up to Pearl Harbor and things like that she wakes up in 1861, having just been in the other timeline where, she had to carry a lot. I'm not sure I could do that. Maggie,
Yeah, it
that's,
was a balancing act for
yeah,
sure.
and not to slip and say something just really outrageous from 2001. Oh, hand me a cell phone, when she's in 1861.
Yeah.
It's, or even 1941 and stuff. The other part I loved about these stories is there is a strong sense of family in all three timelines. She has basically three sets of parents. Now there's only one set that they're marked, that is, they are the time crossing family. But she does have parents in the other two timelines, and in all of them she loves all her family, she loves her parents, and that makes her choice that she has to make on her 21st birthday that much more difficult. So it's not just the romance aspect of it, it's the families that she's
Right.
because to the paths that she doesn't choose, she die, or according to the families there, she's died. She
Hmm.
doesn't choose that. I don't think we're revealing any spoilers here with that. So these are tough
No.
choices she has to make, because she's leaving behind family who think she has died. Um, if she did not choose the same timeline that her marked parents, as she calls them, the parents that are also time crossers, they know if she died in their timeline that she chose another timeline, so they're okay, but the other families aren't. So just that tension as a writer, I would love to build that kind of tension all the way through the book. It keeps you reading, keeps you turning the pages.
Yes, just her premise gives her automatic tension. And she does a really good job of that, but there's a lot of other conflicts going on too that are specific to each timeline. I mean, keeping this straight to me, it's like, do you write like all of one timeline and then all of another and then all of the third, or do you write some going back and forth? I mean, that's something we're gonna have to ask when we interview her because that I'm curious about because I think you could do it either way. I could see plotting it out where you go from one to the other, but I could also see you just write one and then like see what happens and then kind of fit in the others, and kind of weave them through. I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, it'll be really, really fun to talk to her next month. I just wrote down that specific
Oh,
question,
good.
so hopefully we'll remember to ask her when we talk to her next month. Needless to say, well, okay, I want to find out. You listened to the audio version of this. Was the narration good? How did?
Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't write down the narrator's name. That's bad me. But I did enjoy it a lot. It's the same narrator that because I listened to book one as well. So she's really good. Um, she's one of those who I don't think her like voices are spectacularly intriguing or so different, but she's just I like her phrasing and I like the way she just stays out of the way, kind of.
Hmm.
I think that's more so. There are some narrators who just do fantastic voices, and all the characters are really different and that kind of thing. I don't that this narrator is not really that, but it's enough that you can tell who's talking. But like, she just is. She just has a really nice flow to her voice, and she sounds really nice with her phrasing. She doesn't have breathing weird places and all that, because I've listened to those people, and I'm like I she's just I don't notice her. I just notice the story, and that was good for me.
To me, that's a successful narrator. If you're so caught
Yeah.
up in the story, you're not getting distracted by the narrator. As much as I would like James Earl Jones to read every book in the world, I would be distracted by his voice because it's the iconic
Yes.
voice. So I think that's high praise on this. Needless to say, we both, I think, really loved this book. We both read book one just cause. So that says a lot. I'm going to pick up book three. It's another year out, which
Yeah.
we have to wait patiently, but I'm sure it takes a bit to write this kind of book.
Yeah.
So, because she does it well, she does her research well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, she likes research, unlike me.
she does.
I
It's
mean,
gonna. I
there's
think
I
it's
don't
gonna be
know.
fun to talk to her because I have some of the same, as I said, same loves. Just because I lived on the East Coast as a
Mhm.
girl and got into the colonial history and yeah,
Definitely made me want to visit Williamsburg
oh,
when I read book one.
fabulous. Yeah, just go to Virginia, go to DC. You can get lost there for days,
Yeah,
days and days
I
and
like
days.
DC.
So, were you, and we're not going to give away the ending, but were you satisfied with the ending, with how she wrapped up the other timelines and with the ultimate choice that she
I
made?
was surprised.
Yeah, I was too.
I was surprised because I didn't know what she was going to do. And of course, you're anticipating certain things because
Mhm.
we know the history. This is all really well known history. So
Mhm.
there were certain things that I was like, okay, how's that gonna how's that gonna come
Yeah,
through? Because especially like Bull Run, I mean, I used to teach US history and I taught the Civil War. So like I knew a lot about the Battle of Bull Run. And so as soon as they got in the carriage, I'm like, oh no, because I knew what actually happened. So I'm like,
right.
you know. And so I thought that was really well done. And I did like the ending. And I liked, yeah, yeah, I did. I really liked the ending. And it made me super excited for book three. Super
Oh my
excited.
gosh, the very ending. Yeah, yeah, super excited. But her choice, I was surprised, which was nice. I mean, because I think I would have been happy with any of the choices, but the way she just wrapped things up, and made me as a reader feel good instead of saying, "Oh, I was rooting for that timeline. She should have done that," and then you're mad at the book. Gabrielle
No,
Meyer
I
does
think,
such a good job. Yeah, wrapping it
yeah,
up.
because I think she did a really good job of making them very equal at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. Like she set it up really well because I could not have picked it when she first when you the first few chapters with each one, like I would not have been able to choose one. And I could feel for her because they were all really amazing, honestly. But she did give enough clues through, if you were paying attention, you were like,
Hmm.
okay, we're veering away from this one just slightly.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
Yeah.
just some things, but even until the very end, like I wasn't sure about the last two.
Hmm.
I really wasn't. But then only about the last two chapters from the end, then I was like, okay, I could see where this is going. And I was okay with it because she had done a really good job of directing us the way it should go. But I didn't feel cheated at all by any of it.
No, no, it said she wrapped up the other timelines really well, that you felt good with
Hmm.
the one she ultimately chose. So, and that's, a skill. This, I am curious as to, well, I can't wait till we talk to Gabrielle next
I
month,
know.
because how long did it take her to research and write these books and figure this out, and to give it such a satisfying
Right.
conclusion.
And she tackled three timelines in this one because book one only has two.
Two, right, right, and stuff, which makes the first two books different, and the way she hinted at book three, it's going to be totally different too.
Yeah.
So
I
this
could
girl's
see
got a
like
great imagination.
I could see that one being like four, honestly.
Well, it doesn't sound like it if you
I don't think it.
no,
I
it's
have ideas about it. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what she really does do because I was like, what would I do if I had this problem? And
well, you read book two, and there's a little snippet of book three at the end of book two, so I
no, I didn't get that in the audiobook.
Oh, well,
They
I'll
cheated.
tell you when we're
Oh,
done recording. Sorry, audience. I can't give it away yet. I'll let Gabrielle give it away if she wants to, what the timeline's going to be, but I will tell you, Rebecca. So, in other words,
okay.
you have to read in this moment to find out. And I'm sorry the audio version doesn't give you
Yeah,
the
it had a
hint
lot of
for
really
the
good
next
information.
book, but it's quite exciting. Anyway, I give this, I mean, I don't know. We've given pretty high scores for a lot of our books. We've really enjoyed them. This one's to me easy 5 stars because it was
Hmm.
just different
Yeah.
voice, different premise.
Yeah, I would definitely I would read this book again, and that's pretty high praise for me because I don't read very many
Yeah,
books twice.
yeah, yeah. I'm that way too, and I know some voracious readers probably think you and I are insane that we don't read books more than
Yeah,
once, but
I don't have time for that.
I and I don't, but you're right. I think I would, because it would be interesting to go back and read these and start picking up the hints and see how many
Hmm.
seeds that she dropped to let us
Right.
know, the direction of the story. And I do like that, especially as a writer, go back and reread and see how she lays the groundwork for something
Yeah.
like this, to where you're just enjoying the story, but she's, as a reader, but she's also, the author is laying the groundwork for
Right.
the satisfying conclusion, which is what we all want.
Yeah, I think if you're somebody who wants to write dual time,
Mm.
even though this isn't exactly
Mhm.
a dual time, this would still be a really good book to read to or this
Yes.
series for picking up hints on how to do that effectively.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how to, you know, the timelines are different, but yet the
To
similarities and what the character is going through in each
right.
one. Even
Mesh
though,
all that. Yeah.
yeah, to mesh it. I mean, we have the same character in this particular series, and for In This Moment and When the Day Comes, are the same characters, but still they're living different lives. So as you said, for the dual timeline stories, it would be a really good thing as a writer. And then I thought characterization was good because she had to take this one person and turn her into three characters in a sense for the three timelines.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's
and she had to be the same yet different. So that was a it was a good balancing act there too.
So, okay, yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to go back and reread this and reread it as a writer. I always say I'm going to do that, and then I'll get caught up in the story, which tells me the author has done their job really well. If I forget about, if I take off my writer hat and put on my reader hat, I will have to go back and read as a writer, because there is a lot I think you can learn with the characterization and the dual timelines and the settings she used. And if you're
if you're a historical writer of any sort, romance, any whether it's you would get a ton out of this story, because she really uses her settings. All the history is very well integrated. The details are fantastic. And you feel like you're there in all three timelines. So
this is good. Well, I can say this has probably been one of our favorite reads. So we're really looking forward to talking to Gabrielle Meyer next month. But meanwhile, if you haven't read In This Moment or When the Day Comes, pick them up today. They're fun and they're worth the read, and it'll make you anxious for book number 3 that comes out next year.
Yeah, share it with your friends, and then you can chat about it, because it's something you definitely could have a large conversation about this story.
You can. Well, book clubs would be fantastic to do that. So so this is definitely high praise, at least on our end of things, for In This Moment by Gabrielle Meyer. Pick it up, and we're going to look forward to talking to Gabrielle next month and see how that mind of hers works to figure all this stuff out and the research and all that good stuff. Anything else you want to say, Rebecca, in conclusion?
No, I don't think so. We've pretty much said everything, I think.
All right. Our highest recommendation, In This Moment by Gabrielle Meyer. And we will see you next month when we look forward to talking to the author herself. So take care, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.